Most people are shocked to hear that even with Medicare, the average 65-year-old in America is looking at over $150,000 of medical costs that are not going to be covered by Medicare. And if you've never heard of a health savings account, it can be a super powerful tool for helping with that and also helping with retirement. But there's a really big negative that nobody talks about on YouTube. I've never heard it mentioned. And that question is, what happens to your health savings account when you die? How does that get handled? And I can tell you, you're not going to like the answer to it. But stay to the end, because I'm going to share that with you. And it's super important that you understand it and what you can do to protect people that might inherit your health savings account. So let's start with the basics. A health savings account was really developed by the government for two reasons. One, I think many of us have heard that over half of Americans, if they had an unexpected $1,000 medical bill or car repair bill or whatever it is, they wouldn't be able to pay it. And so the government wanted to create a tool that makes it easier for us to save for save for healthcare expenses, and done right, be able to pay for that in pre-tax dollars. That's one of the main reasons that the government did it. The government also wants us to be more finicky consumers and more smart and intelligent consumers when it comes to our healthcare costs, right? If something's covered by insurance, oftentimes we don't ask, like if you have strep throat, has anybody ever asked, hey, how much is this going to cost? So most of us don't do that, right? And it's really weird because everything else, if you took your car to the mechanic, you'd ask him before he fixes it, how much is it going to cost? So this was in part the government to say, let's have consumers responsible for a higher proportion of their lower cost medical expenses so that they become better consumers. I think both of those are good ideas. I think health savings accounts are great ideas, but again, you need to understand what the negatives are, and what happens when you pass away is just one of the negatives. So let's keep going. Why are health savings accounts so popular with financial advisors? I've been a fee-only financial advisor for over 20 years, and it's one of my favorite accounts. In fact, if somebody said, hey, Azul, what's the order that I should be saving money in, right? First, I would tell you have an emergency savings fund. Second, I would tell you is if you work for a company that offers a 401k and the employer offers a match, well, put money in up till that match, right? That's free money. You're going to get, for every dollar you put in, you're going to get $1 back up to that match. That's 100% return, and it's the only place I know where you can get 100% guaranteed return. But the third place I'm going to tell you to put your money, if you qualify for it, is a health savings account. And here's why. There's three reasons. The trifecta for a retirement account. You can put money into the account on a pre-tax basis. The money's going to grow tax-free. And if you spend the money for qualified medical expenses and you have the receipts to prove that you did it, you can withdraw the money tax-free as well. So it's really the best retirement account. It really wasn't designed as a retirement account, but it can be extremely powerful. Let me give you an example. If you have $10,000 in your health savings account and it grows for 30 years at 12%, you know what that's going to be? It's going to increase by 30x. You're going to have $300,000. Now, that $150,000 medical expenses that Medicare doesn't cover, that's going to go up too. But, you know, the ability to put that $10,000 in without paying tax, it can be earned money on that, and have it grow tax-free and be able to withdraw it tax-free, that's extremely powerful. Okay, so let's talk about what does it take in order to be able to open a health savings account. First, you need to know that not every custodian offers health savings accounts. Places like Fidelity. I mentioned Fidelity because they are approved by the IRS to have health savings accounts. And as of this recording, they have a no-cost health savings option, and they also have a low-cost health savings account option, depending on what you're looking for. And you have a lot of flexibility in how your money's invested. So first, it has to go to the right type of custodian. The second thing is you have to be in what's called a high deductible healthcare plan. And I'll put a link in the website, but basically, as the name implies, you have a higher deductible than maybe what your company would normally offer to employees. But the nice thing is these high deductible plans are less expensive for your employer. And many employers choose to put some money into your health savings account for you to either encourage healthy behavior like getting a physical every year, or maybe they give you some of what they save because you're in a lower cost plan for them. So you've got to be in a high deductible plan. Medicare is not a high deductible plan. So if you've got Medicare, you cannot put new money into a health savings account. But if you already have one, obviously you can keep holding on to that. Okay. The other thing is you cannot be a dependent on somebody else's tax return. So if you're a 19-year-old and you're going to college and your parents are helping you out and they're listing you as a dependent, unfortunately, there's a lot of benefits to mom and dad helping you out. But right now, you cannot put money into a health savings account. But you still want to know what the pros and cons are, because the sooner you can do that, right, as soon as you're not a dependent, the better off and the more powerful a health savings account can be. Also, you cannot have a health savings account and a flexible spending account. Companies offer flex spending accounts, which are FSAs. Now, people sometimes get confused because flexible spending accounts typically is a use it or lose it account. You put money into this account on a tax-free basis, but then you have to use it. And if you don't use it, you lose it. That is not how it works with a health savings account. This is your money and you get to keep it. So how much money can you put into a health savings account? Does it move the needle? For individuals in 2023, you can put in $3,850. In 2024, that's going to bump up a little bit. You can put in $4,150. And for a family plan, if you're you and your spouse and your kids, you can put in 2023, and as I record this, you still have time to do this, $7,750. And in 2024, that gets a small bump, goes up to $8,300. Now, it's important for you to know that's the total amount. So if your employer is putting money into the account, that's the total. So if they're putting in, let's say, $1,000, then how much you can put in decreases by $1,000. But there is a catch-up provision. So if you're over 55 years old, both in 2023 and 2024, you can put in an extra $1,000 into your health savings account. So you can put in a pretty substantial amount of money, and surprisingly, fewer than 10% of people that in America, fewer than 10% of the people that have a health savings account actually put in the maximum. And again, it's the third place after an emergency fund, after the employer match. It's the third place I'd put in money. So the real power of a health savings account comes from putting in as much as you can every year. So if you can afford to do it, I encourage you to do it. Okay, so what's the strategy? What a lot of people don't realize is once you have a health savings account, any qualified medical expense that you keep the receipt for, that receipt is good for life as long as you have your health savings account. So let's say, next year in 2024, I have to have a $1,000 medical procedure. That's a qualified procedure. I save the receipts for that. And so it's 2024, but I can take that money out in 2024 if I want. I can take it out in 2050. I can take it out when I no longer have a high deductible healthcare plan. I can take that money out, that $1,000, as long as I have that receipt. Even when I'm under Medicare. Again, Medicare is not a high deductible plan. So at that point, I won't be able to put new money in, but you save these receipts. And imagine every year you're just saving these receipts. And, through the years, you've saved up $100,000 of medical expenses for somebody 65 or older. It's on Medicare. I mentioned it's over $150,000 in medical expenses. You can either pay for those medical expenses out of your health savings account, or you can save the receipts and take it out anytime you want later. Now, here's the gotcha. And the big one, I'm going to go through the one smaller one first. And the smaller one got you the negative of a health savings account, which is important for you to know, is, high deductible healthcare plans are not for everybody. If your family is a big consumer of healthcare services, and when my kids were younger, we went to the doctor a lot more. So that probably would not have been the best time for me to have a health savings account. I actually chose to have one anyways. I think it worked out to my family's benefit. I've had a health savings account for 15 plus years now. So that's one small gotcha. It's not for everybody. You've also heard me carefully say qualified medical expenses. So if you take your money out and you don't have the receipt for that qualified medical expense, or it's not a qualified medical expense, you just want to take it out, that is subject to a 20% penalty. In addition, you're going to pay ordinary income tax on those non-qualified withdrawals. So that gets covered, right? And that's not pleasant. But here's the big gotcha. And before I get there, I need to tell you I'm not an accountant. My goal with this video is to put things on your radar screen that you can be thinking about for yourself, and you can do some research, or even better, you can talk to an accountant and have them give you advice to your specific situation. But here's the big gotcha. What happens with you when you die, right? I mentioned that at the beginning. So here's what happens when you die. If you're married and you have a spouse and your spouse is still alive, it can transfer over to your spouse. It depends on how you list your beneficiary. But if your spouse is the beneficiary, that's a tax-free event. It's as if it didn't happen. It basically becomes your spouse's health savings account. No problem. But what happens if you're not married? What happens if your spouse has predeceased you? If your health savings account goes to anybody other than your spouse, all of that in the year of your death, all of that is going to count as ordinary income to that person. So if you have a $300,000 health savings account and you transfer that to you have one child, and so your child gets that, they don't get to use it as a health savings account. The IRS is going to say this counts as a withdrawal from it, and it's all going to be taxable income that year. So let's say your son's making $100,000, your son or daughter making $100,000 a year, and $300,000 from the health savings account. That's going to be in a very high tax bracket. Now, the government gives you one small break on this, which is if there were qualified medical expenses in the year of your death, you can use that you can take that money out in pre-tax dollars first, and then whatever is less than the health savings account is going to go over. But a health savings account is not a great tool to leave to a non-spouse. So that's the big gotcha. Hopefully people start talking about it, because I think it's important. Even with that, I'm a big fan of health savings account, but I want you to know the good and the bad. I also want you to think about watching this video here, which is 5 reasons you should think about retiring as soon as you can, right? We're talking about saving up these accounts, but I also saving up money for retirement, but I also want to make sure that you enjoy retirement. So watch this video here. 5 reasons to retire as soon as you can. We'll see you in there.